Here's a fully rewritten and expanded version of the story, smoothed into a seamless, flowing narrative with no headings, chapter breaks, or bullet points. I've fleshed it out slightly for better pacing and immersion while keeping the core plot, dramatic tension, sensory details, and satisfying revenge intact. Perfect for a longer YouTube narration script. 2. $3 million. That's the price the HOA president slapped on my grandfather's private lake when she listed it for sale on Zillow, just 6 days after his funeral. I drove straight there, heart pounding, only to find surveyors hammering stakes along the shoreline and a backhoe already tearing up dirt near the old dock. She stood there in her crisp blazer, clipboard in hand, grinning like she'd won the lottery. The funeral flowers were still wilting on the passenger seat of my truck. "We're developing this unused waterfront," she said without even glancing up. "The board voted. It's for the community's benefit." Unused. That's what she called the 12-acre lake my grandfather had owned and cherished since 1964. The one he stocked with bass every spring, the one where my mom brought me after my dad walked out, the one where he taught me to swim, fish, and carve our initials side by side in the big memorial oak by the dock. I pulled out the deed and shoved it toward her. She barely looked before smirking. "Sweetie, the HOA covenants override that old paper. Now run along. My name is Declan Morrison, and just 2 weeks earlier, I thought my life was over. A brutal divorce had stripped away my Portland house, my savings, even my dog. The only thing left was this 40-acre cabin and lake in rural Oregon, a place I hadn't visited since I was 12. Earl Morrison had practically raised me during those long summers after my father disappeared. He built the A-frame cabin with his own hands, maintained every trail and board on the dock with quiet devotion, and taught me that real therapy often comes from fixing things yourself. When cancer finally took him last month, he left me the one spot on earth where I'd ever felt truly at home. The air inside still carried the faint scent of his pipe tobacco, mingled with lake dampness and old cedar. Everything was exactly as I remembered. The worn smooth porch rails from decades of hands sliding along them. The loons calling over water so still it mirrored the sky like black glass. The well water that tasted like the purest in 3 counties. I'd only been there 2 weeks, still sleeping in his old bed under musty wool blankets, when Vivian Blackwood rolled up in her white Escalade. Millfield Estates, the sprawling McMansion development next door, had sprung up 5 years earlier. Vivian, the HOA president and former real estate agent, knew property values better than anyone. Married to City Councilman Bradley Blackwood, she drove around with HOA official vanity plates like she was law enforcement. She'd been circling since Grandpa's diagnosis, sniffing around the inheritance while I was picking out his casket. She assumed the grieving grandson would sell cheap and flee back to the city. She was dead wrong. The day after our first confrontation in the parking lot, she returned with reinforcements. A clipboard stuffed with official documents, fake EPA complaints, forged county ordinances, staged photos of supposed mosquito hazards. "This standing water violates 3 health codes," she declared, her designer flats crunching gravel like nails on chalkboard. "We're prepared to facilitate a reasonable solution." I laughed, actually laughed. "Lady, this lake was here when your development was still dirt and dreams." Her smile stayed fixed, but I saw the twitch near her eye. 3 neighbors pulled up right on cue, all wearing the same fake sympathetic faces, offering to help negotiate a fair sale for the sake of property values. Vultures always travel in flocks. Grandpa used to say, sitting on that dock at sunset, when folks start measuring what ain't theirs, they're planning to steal it. He'd kept meticulous records in a fireproof safe I hadn't located yet. Original surveys, deeds, county letters. Turns out he'd documented everything like he knew this fight was coming. Vivian's next play was a formal complaint claiming my septic system was poisoning groundwater, demanding a $15,000 emergency inspection. I was an electrician, not a lawyer. I knew wiring, not covenants. But Grandpa had always been 3 steps ahead of people like her. 3 days later, a guy in a county truck showed up at 7 a.m. "Rex Dillingham, environmental compliance," he barked, flashing a badge. He marched around snapping hundreds of photos of my septic the dock, even inside the cabin, muttering about public health hazards. Then he handed me a $3,500 bill for the emergency assessment, due immediately or the place gets red-tagged uninhabitable. Something felt wrong. The truck was too clean, his uniform too new. Government inspectors don't demand cash on the spot. That evening, Vivian hosted a concerned residents meeting at the community center, complete with slideshows of algae blooms and dead fish that clearly weren't from my lake. 20 people nodded along to her charts and fake parent testimonials. But Rex got sloppy, dropped his business card. Dillingham Environmental Consulting. Private contractor, not county. I called the real health department the next morning. Dolores, the sweet lady who answered, confirmed. No Rex on staff, no emergency fees, no complaints filed. Fake as a $3 bill. Grandpa always said real authorities have patience. Cons wanted money fast. I started building my case like an electrical diagram. Photos, recordings, timelines linking her complaints to Rex's inspections. At the hardware store, Frank mentioned Vivian had asked about lake drainage pumps 3 weeks earlier, while Grandpa was still alive. I bought trail cameras that night and hid them in the pines, just like he taught me on hunting trips. 2 days later, the footage was gold. Rex sneaking back after dark, dumping green dye, grocery store dead fish, algae powder into shallows. Amateur mistakes, crunching leaves loud enough to hear on audio. I took everything to Miranda Steele, an attorney whose office sat above Frank's store. Textbook harassment, she said, spreading documents under the late afternoon sun. Tortious interference, fraud, evidence tampering. We can get a restraining order and press charges. The police report moved fast with hard proof. Rex got served before the week ended. His business vanished overnight. But Vivian escalated. Her husband hinted at bigger agencies, EPA, state regulators. Then a real EPA inspector, Janet Walsh, arrived. We got a complaint about industrial water extraction and contamination. She walked the shoreline, puzzled. This just looks like a normal private lake. Vivian had fabricated an entire industrial operation. Pumping stations, dams, commercial fishing. That didn't exist. While Janet inspected, fake cease and desist letters flooded in. Noise violations for my generator, wildlife interference for feeding ducks, even unauthorized lighthouse for Grandpa's old solar dock light. My insurance company called. Policy canceled due to anonymous high-risk complaints. No insurance meant no mortgage protection. Vivian was dismantling my ability to keep the land. Then Janet showed me the real bombshell. The complaint included illegal drone photos. Inside my cabin, me sleeping, showering. Felony-level privacy invasion and false federal reports. We're referring this to the FBI. That night, my cameras caught Rex and 2 others trespassing upstream, contaminating samples with green chemicals. She's paying us $10 grand to prove this lake poisons the watershed, Rex said on audio. Clear evidence of fraud and trespass. A retired forest ranger named Jasper Quint showed up next morning with Grandpa's old documents and a grim look. Earl always said if anyone tried stealing this place, I should help. He had copies proving the lake's private status since 1964. And Vivian's history. She'd run the same scam in Bend 3 years earlier, harassing a couple until they sold cheap, then flipping for millions. Only stopped when a relative in the AG's office got involved. We filed federal charges, fraud, tampering, conspiracy. 3 HOA board members arrived that evening, embarrassed. We had no idea. She spent $40,000 of HOA funds without approval. Embezzlement on top of everything. Vivian's desperation peaked when Fish and Wildlife showed up to drain the lake over invasive species. The photos she submitted. Stock images with watermarks and palm trees. Obviously not Oregon. Agent Sarah Brighton halted everything. Falsified docs triggering federal emergency is a felony. Jasper revealed more. Grandpa had state-certified the lake as a wildlife preserve from 1967 to 1982, won awards for habitat management. Then came the hidden safe in the basement workshop, behind fake plywood, opened with a combination carved into his tackle box. Inside, the real deed showed Grandpa bought extra land in 1964. My property extended 400 feet beyond the current fence, putting 15 Millfield houses on my ground. He'd sold only surface rights in 1987, retaining subsoil, mineral, water rights, and perpetual easements. Leases expired in 2010. Those families have been trespassing unknowingly for 13 years. Grandpa's letter explained it all. Strategic chess to protect the legacy. Use this power wisely. Don't punish innocent families. Now, I had leverage. Miranda called it extraordinary. I owned the ground under half the development. We planned carefully. Fair 99-year leases at reasonable rates, no evictions. But first, Vivian needed to face the truth publicly. At the annual community festival, where she planned to announce her victory in the $50 million resort deal, she took the stage in her white power suit, screens showing luxury renderings. Today marks a historic victory. The lake is acquired, groundbreaking Monday. I walked up calmly, asked for the mic. The crowd hushed as surveyor Claude unfurled the 1964 map. 15 homes clearly on my land. I read the real deed. Vivian lunged for the mic, fake. But FBI agent Brighton stepped forward. Vivian Blackwood, you're under arrest for environmental fraud, embezzlement, extortion, false federal reports. Handcuffs clicked amid gasps and cameras flashing. As she was led away screaming, I offered the affected families leases, $50 per month, 99 years. Relief washed over their faces. The applause built to a roar echoing over the water. 6 months later, Vivian began a 15-year federal sentence. Her multi-state fraud ring, millions stolen, was dismantled. Her husband resigned in disgrace. The community elected a transparent new board. Lease income funded the Earl Morrison Conservation Trust. The lake recovered, became an outdoor classroom. Miranda moved in. We restored Grandpa's cabin respectfully, keeping his sense and stories alive. Jasper teaches surveying to visitors. Families picnic under the memorial oak. The loons still call, the bass still swim deep, and every evening I read Grandpa's letter. Build something better than what they try to destroy. The land outlasts us all, but the choices we make echo forever. What would you have done if this was your inheritance? Drop your thoughts below and subscribe for more wild HOA stories every week. Warning reminder, these are fictionalized tales inspired by real themes, for entertainment only. Any similarities are pure coincidence. Bell.